First, we will have Chris Littleton. Chris is the president of the Ohio Liberty Council, the group that is kicking off the effort. Chris will explain what they're doing. After Chris, Maurice Thompson, executive director of the 1851 Center for Constitutional Law, will explain the nuts and bolts of the process. Chris?
Well, first, let me thank everyone for being here today. The reason that everyone's here is so we can announce we have put together an amendment to the Ohio Constitution so that we have the ability as Ohioans to nullify what has come down this weekend from healthcare legislation currently pending in the United States Congress, that we would have specifically a mandate to purchase healthcare coverage. So this is an amendment designed to make sure that Ohioans have the right to actually continue to choose whether or not they would or would not like to do what they would like to do in their personal lives. So the way this came about is effectively the Ohio Liberty Council, organization which I'm a member of, is a coalition of Tea Party groups, 912 projects, and other liberty-minded grassroots organizations throughout the state of Ohio. We talked about this for an extended period of time, the last few months, and thought that there would be necessity for this to come about. Going into this weekend, we decided that it actually was time, as the healthcare legislation looked very likely, and that this language would remain in the current bill coming out of D.C. Once that was the case, we spoke on Friday evening, actually, with leaders from throughout the state of Ohio, had decided on the language, moved it out to those leaders, and approaching 5,000 signatures were gathered in just about a 36-hour timeline, just over a 36-hour timeline. The stat to the left of me is the final 3,000, which we've sorted through and will be presented to the Attorney General following this press conference. And we are very hopeful, both based on the language and the support. This will be on the ballot in November. And with that, I can take some basic questions.
What is the fundamental, if a person needs, when you drive a car, to have car insurance, what is the fundamental beef with 20-somethings and everybody kind of getting into a system that financially covers everybody?
Sure. I don't think, and I'll speak on behalf of, I guess, the movement at this point. I don't think that anyone has a beef with the security of something. What we do have a beef with is the removal of liberty from those who choose not to do something at the cost of those who would. Regardless of majority, it's still a personal decision to do a great many things, and we hope to be able to preserve that decision for anyone.
Does the mandate, if you will, that Ohio has on auto insurance poke any holes in your legal opinion?
The attorney who actually helped draft some of the language will come and answer the legal questions. I would not consider myself qualified to comment on case law at this point.
Chris, there are a number of provisions of the federal law that will take effect before voters have a chance to vote on your amendment. What happens to those laws once this takes effect, or if this passes?
Yeah, the vast majority of the language, I'll let Maurice Thompson answer those as well. The vast majority of what's put forth is specific to really the mandate and the choice. Obviously, there's a great many things we don't control, even within the state. There's certain parts of taxation which we understand we don't have access to change some of those things. So this is very specifically focused on the mandate part, just the choice.
So you would allow the mandates on the insurance companies to take effect?
Yeah, I mean, part of it we're not going to have any control over. So.
Your movement often uses the word tyranny, you're fighting tyranny. Can you just be a little more specific in terms of, in what way do you view the federal government saying, look, you have to buy insurance? In what way is that tyrannical? How does it rather feel?
Sure. Tyranny is obviously an extremely broad term. So anytime that anyone, and I don't know how often we've used that term, but anytime that we're talking in things related to tyranny, effectively what we're saying is it's a removal of choice, and what we would say, a lot of that choice is still going to be, it's going to come down in the form of law, but it should be as close to the people as possible. So laws are always going to come about, but if things were closer to the county or things were closer to the state, I think that a lot of those, when the choices are closer to the people, would be much farther down the spectrum of tyranny. So is it pure tyranny? Of course not. I don't even know that the movement's even proposing that, despite rhetoric that you hear. You very rarely hear that from leaders within the movement. So tyranny is probably not exactly the word, but we definitely are proposing that, in the form of federalism that our founding fathers really envisioned, that the power was as close to the people as possible, and that means that it was within the states. So anything that would, help take away some of that federal level power is something that we are interested in.
Why go this route? Why not go some other route, such as like a provisions?
Yeah, in this case, no statement on Attorney General Cordray, but it didn't look likely that was going to happen. Rhetoric hadn't come out that he was going to move in that direction. And another thing, there's legislation pending in the House right now, in the State House, and it didn't look like it was going to move forward as well. So when both a legal and a legislative route didn't look possible in the state of Ohio, this was very much a move for all of us to say, if this is what we have to do, then this is what we're willing to do as free and independent citizens of Ohio, that we're going to have to take matters in our own hands. And this is the result of feeling that we didn't have another direction to go. Legislation pending, Idaho and Virginia did something very similar to nullify some things that are out there. A number of attorney generals around the United States have said that they were going to go this direction. And even just this morning, after initial press went on this, we've already had a couple states contact us to use ballot language similar to this to move through the grassroots route in order to get it on the ballot. So I think we're going to see a lot of states, whether it's through legislative, legal, or ballot initiative process, doing something similar to this.
400,000 signatures, though, that's quite a large number. Do you guys have a plan in place right now as to how you're going to go about gathering those?
Yeah, it started, like I sort of told the story, I started on Friday night with all of us coming together on a conference call. There are thousands of people across a number of states, and we can clarify that, I can get the stats afterwards. It was over 40 counties, which we actually gathered signatures from in order for this to happen. That was in a 2-day time period. So there are people out there that are very interested in doing this, and the anecdotal stories as this came in was some people set up in a parking lot with a sign saying, would you sign this? They didn't have to go door to door, people came to them. So absolutely, we plan on doing this in as many organizations as we can throughout the state. We do have thousands of people who are interested in going door to door in order to make sure that this happens as well. And then we also know that there's going to be a number of the tax day rallies, just like there was last year when the Tea Party movement got off the ground. And we plan to have people at every single one of those in the state of Ohio in order to gather thousands on those days as well.
Isn't one of the arguments behind the mandate that the people who choose not to have insurance still get health care, but it's often at emergency rooms that are expensive and that essentially everybody else pays for?
Sure.
What's wrong with something that would require folks to participate that might drive down the cost for everybody who pays into the system?
Sure. Effectively, and I think Maurice will make a more clear statement on this as far as the language goes, but effectively what happens when we start to choose, especially languages coming down from the federal level, is we're making choices in people's personal behavior that is effectively, if you breathe, the government can tell you to do X, Y, or Z. And that's not a good position. It's far too much of a slippery slope. We feel that we've already gone too far down, and if we don't put the brakes on things like this now, what's to say it won't lead to other things that are, because you breathe, the federal government says you must do this. So no one's opposed to access here. I mean, this is less of an argument about access for us than it is an argument about personal choice. We really sincerely believe this is an infringement on personal liberties. And at some point, it just has to stop. And so this is our stopping moment.